There we are. Open all hails. Sit back and engage your warp drive here with us at the Spacebook with our YouTube exclusive raw and uncut Star Trek podcast show. Podcasty, videocasty. It's a bit of everything, isn't it? Hello. I'm in Star Trek Blue again. I ought to get the little badge on the side there, hadn't I? Really lived the part. I'm Dan Hadley, of course, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. I should have a quadrant. I should be, Birmingham Quadrant's King of the Geeks, something like that. And of course, I'm not alone because I never am. I need a whole deck full of other geeks and Star Trek devotees to come and celebrate or commiserate with me. And let's bring them all in now. First of all, let's get mega with Ian David Diaz. Welcome back.
Hello. We're back to punish ourselves. With episode 3.
It feels a little bit like. Do you remember on the Next Generation where Worf would put himself through all those trials, those Klingon initiation rites?
Yep.
It feels like a 10-week go of one of those, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's probably to us, it's probably pon fire, isn't it? And we have to do this all the time just to get through it.
Yeah. You can do that on your own if you like. I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
wait. But doing this, that was.
Did you not watch Star Trek 3?
Yes, I have watched Star Trek 3. Clearly, Spock and Savick got it on. And you got it on with a young 16-year-old Spock.
Exactly.
Can't blame her.
If there was anything smutty to be talked about, the one I had to drop the rabbi in right away. Knowledge of all things filthy. Good evening, Alan.
I was thinking about your interaction about the being a wolf-like trial of combat. But my favorite wolf trial was when he had his brother on the ship, right? And his brother Kern, the Candy Man, kept being like really nice to him, while I was really being horrible to everybody else. And very good, Wolf. You have done a good job. And Wolf's like, a
lot of very sort of pensive performing in that, wasn't there? I'd love to know. I'll have to go and look up what other things Michael Dorn has done since. I know he's done a lot of stage work, but I hope that he got to smile a little more from time to time. Talking about smiling, here we are. We've got our fourth man this time. He's been away for a couple of weeks. He was here on the first show, very, very gamely, but he hadn't even seen Lower Decks at that point, and he still came in. But he has seen them now. He's up to speed. He's seen a few. So welcome back, everybody, Keith Isles.
Hey. Smiley Keith.
Not only has he finally watched it, he's actually watched it, but he's been game enough. Now he's actually seen it to come back and talk about it. Yeah. So, how many episodes are you into Lower Decks? Have you seen all 3?
I have seen all 3, yes, indeed. And in fact, I've even recorded, slight plug here, but I've recorded podcasts on each episode for Let's See What's Out There. So, and we didn't talk before, but Ian and I are currently from the same studios today.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. My microphone always hides part of my T-shirt logo, but there you go. No Star Trek T-shirt today.
Oh, no. Get all the Marvel love going. Yes. So you've saw. Where are you generally on this? Are you sort of? Have you found the level with it?
Where are you on concentration camps? I mean, like, really, this is not saying anybody has any like mild feelings about.
Because
go ahead.
You're in for the full 10-week trek like we are, aren't you? So it's a case of having to watch it. But are you? Where is it? Is the thumb up? Is it down? Or are you like that?
Yeah, I really don't know where I am with it. It's funny enough. The revelation I said on the podcast today was that I want to take it too seriously, and I need to just let it go and realize that it's not necessarily made for me. And if I can remove it from being too serious about Trek, I might be able to start enjoying it. But it's been a bit of It's been a bit of a trial. Trial by fire.
I have to tell you, when you get through those like layers and layers and layers of offense that any Star Trek fan has to get through, right? When you get through that and you actually analyze the show, it's terrible. You're actually able to look at it, it's absolutely awful. I mean, underneath all of that, but listen, it's not made for you. Do you like Star Trek? Do you like to laugh? Are you a human being?
What you have to understand about
those three questions. It's not made for you.
What you have to understand.
What it's made for.
What you have to understand about Keith is very. I don't know.
Measured.
Yeah, measured. You know, he wouldn't come out and just say, "Look, it was shit." You know what I mean? He's very measured. He's very kind of,
I could relate to this, Keith. There's nothing wrong with being measured.
Exactly.
I'm quite measured. Myself, anybody who follows this channel knows I'm somewhat measured. And of course, we keep talking at the moment. We've all described it as it so far. The it that we're talking about is, of course, the brand spanking new Star Trek animated series that's debuting at the moment over a 10-week period. We're now 3 in, so we're nearly a third of the way in. So anybody out there who says that we shouldn't be commenting on this now that we can't possibly know, I believe a third of the way, gentlemen, is more than enough to make a reasoned judgment about what we've been watching and what we're going to see in the future. But before we get into that good stuff, let's talk about something nice, something celebratory, Keith, because the word has come out this week, a bit of a news story, that Star Trek, the Star Trek short treks have been nominated for Emmy.
Are you serious?
What do you mean? What? Ouch, what? Okay, what was this competition? That. What?
He stopped doing it now.
What was this competition? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just outstanding short form comedy? What, or drama series? It was neither.
Now, hold on. It says for your consideration, so it doesn't mean to say it's been nominated.
No, but Alex Kurtzman has he's been on Twitter saying that it has actually received a nomination for this. So this is short form, and that's anything up to 20 minutes, something like that, 20, 25 minutes.
Blimey.
I'd be really surprised if it won anything.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's clearly nothing to do with quality.
Obviously, this is the second season of Short Trek.
I was going to say that the thing is with this, both this and Lower Decks, is technically we shouldn't be watching any of this because this is not available in the UK. I'm
not in the UK, but nobody should be watching it. Just on a moral level, on a humanitarian level. I mean, listen, I'm looking at this poster right now. I'm looking at all the worst parts of Star Trek is big. Star Trek has a large, library, right? The worst parts of it right now. Actually, I found Short Trek to be even worse than Lower Decks, and Lower Decks is just like tone deaf and stupid and wrong. Short Treks is it staggers my imagination that anybody was able to write these and like somebody said, yes, that'll work. I'm going to pay you for that.
But we know how it all works. We know that basically they're not nominated for what they've done and what the show is like and stuff. We know that there's politics behind the scenes when shows get nominated. So Kurtzman's probably bribed a lot of people, and that's how we got the nomination.
Yeah, listen, probably Kurtzman's got JJ to twist a few arms to give him more, and then they can call it the Emmy nominated.
I mean, remember when Ricky Gervais said that joke about Harvey Weinstein before he got arrested? Remember, he said something about, well, you're paying for your award, aren't you? And everybody started laughing at that shot of Harvey Weinstein laughing, because it is true, apparently, that he paid to get nominated. He literally went out and paid someone or some of the people that was involved in the Emmy Awards to get nominated, to his films to get nominated. Obviously it was a rumor.
I would imagine that the competition for Emmy shorts, it's not going to be like an independent film festival, is it? It's got to be a fewer people put for consideration.
If he's paid to win, if he's paid someone for it to get nominated and it wins, then that's just one thing he could say to the financiers. Oh, look, it won an
That's
Emmy.
Exactly what this is about.
And that's why they're doing it. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was very
obvious.
disappointed with the second set of short treks. I thought the first lot were harmless enough, a bit silly, a bit superficial, maybe. But I thought some of them were okay. But this second lot, even though I appreciated the fact that they did try new things with the animation and things like that, for me, the mindset behind them, the editorial standpoint was so loud and clear and so off base, kind of like you just said, Rabbi, completely tone deaf. And so I was surprised to see
I mean,
this
not
nomination.
even Disney and not even Marvel bent this low. I mean, they had their one shots, didn't they? Do you remember, Keith? One shots. Is it one shots?
Yeah, and they were quite good. To be
And they
fair.
were really good, really good. And
I like when
and
they're
they,
on the DVDs, right? They're on the blue. Yeah, I like those things.
yeah,
Okay,
and they
I'm looking at what this is up against, and there's a bunch of stuff that I want to see now, other than short treks. It's up against Better Call Saul. They had like a short.
short,
which
Better
is
Call Saul?
amazing.
Yeah, I've never heard of
short?
it. I've got to check it out. Legal
Wow.
Ethics with Kim Wexler. I am into that. Most Dangerous Game. No idea what that is. Reno 911. I like Reno 911. And The Good Place. I love The Good Place. I mean, like, God, yeah. If this wins, it's basically at that point we need to start worshiping Satan. You know, that's happened, and that's where we are.
So yeah, good luck with that one, Alex. I don't know what your chances are, but we're rooting for you, sort of. So
Better
let's
Call
have
Saul every time.
Better Call Saul gets our vote by the sounds of it.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
So yes, back to let's not prolong the agony any further. Back to Star Trek Lower Decks and this third week. If you haven't seen it yet, or you can't be bothered, and let's face it, I can't really blame you on past form. It's called Temporal Edict, and this is the general synopsis. A new work protocol eliminating buffer time as the Lower Decks crew running ragged as they try to keep up with their tightened schedules. Ensign Mariner and Commander Ransom's mutual lack of respect comes to a head during an away mission. This is written by David Ironfield and David Wright, and directed by somebody called Bob Suarez, which sounds like a made-up name, but apparently it isn't. Yes, so week 3. Where do you want to start with this one? I'll tell you how I feel about it. I didn't find this anywhere near as offensive as the previous week. So take that as a positive. And I felt that it was... it made more sense in the story that it was telling, why we were there, and I could at least see some resemblance of a Star Trek story again under the surface, which I did get that a little bit with the first one. So that's the good stuff out of the way. But
that's good stuff.
Time. There we go.
But again, I found this, if anything, the things that I got a problem with before, which is generally it's the brand of humor and the speed at which it's all delivered, that seemed up a gear again. It seemed to move so quickly that I could barely. It started to wash over me after about 10 minutes. I laughed once. Again, I laugh once per show as a rule. Chuckled, not laughed. There's a difference. I chuckled once when the big fella, the big angry fella, comes down and breaks the lads. What's his name? Boimler. See, I'm trying to learn these names. Boimler. I'm trying to learn these names very sort of naturally and just take it in. So I did laugh at that. But other than that, I found it a titter-free zone. And because it was so loud and because it was so fast, I kind of got bored by it. Not even at the case where, where you've got your head in your hands and you think, God, I can't believe what I'm watching. I just started to disconnect with it. So what were your experiences this time, Ian?
Well, I still think that they're running the female agenda through it. I mean, I think it's very mean. It starts off really being mean, doesn't it? Where she comes in and she, while he's playing his violin, she comes in with the guitar and stuff and, pushes him out the way and does her thing and then walks off. And then he gets blamed for it. The guy comes down, breaks his... There's still... And then another scene that really annoyed me is why is Purple-Haired Man in the thing where they're testing out the phaser and testing out the shields? Why did they need him to be in there in the first place for a stupid little joke? Do you know what I mean? And plus,
Yeah,
they
that's exactly what I was
that
doing.
Yeah,
that went past there. That did go completely
yeah,
past
they're
me. Yeah, you're
wailing
absolutely right.
on this guy again, right? Even the stuff. Now, there's one scene in there which I thought was great when she got stabbed in the foot. That was great, but everything else following that, everything else leading up to that, still made her the person that is cute and funny and and acceptable for anything that she does, and it's still wrong. And even at the ending when he says, are you going to report me? And she says no. That makes her, have some kind of ethics.
She's got the power.
And
She's
then,
got the moral power. She's got the high ground.
And then he puts her in jail because she, you know what I mean? So it's still showing that men are either stupid or mean, white men at that. And and what's his name? Is it Jerry Connell does the voice for the Kirk fella? I'll call him Captain Kirk fella.
Ransom.
Commander Ransom.
Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, he did his Captain Kirk thing and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, he's really hot. He's like really hot and stuff like that. But still, it made him look like an idiot. Even though he beat up that big green guy or the monster, it still made him look like he was dumb. He was dumb. Do you know what I mean?
They're all either aggressive or stupid. Or both.
So it's still running this agenda and still making, even though she still comes across as very selfish and stuff like that, it still makes out that she's still, the one that everybody should listen to, and she is perfect, she is great, and that's what I thought. But this episode wasn't too bad. I didn't laugh once, I must admit. I didn't. And I'm hoping that this character, something bad will happen to her. And then she will. No, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, as a character, I just hope something bad happens to her. And she will grow, and then she will realize that the purple head man is not a bad chap. And even when the purple head man got something named after him, they still made him out to be stupid, didn't they? Oh, but why? And stuff like that. And it just, still wailing on men. So nothing's really changed, really, apart from her getting stabbed in the leg.
A family member was asking me about this and who the cast were. I said, well, there's 4 regulars. And I said, well, I think it's trying to be Red Dwarf in some respect. I think Boimler.
No way.
Boimler is sort of a cute take on Rimmer, and Mariner is a kind of Lister figure. If Lister was sort of basically super highly intellectual and a fighting champion, she's brilliant at absolutely everything. But of course, that analogy that doesn't bear up to any real scrutiny. I don't think it's like anything that I've ever watched before. Really. Rabbi, you're scaling at the screen.
I'm like trying to arrange my thoughts. Okay, it's just okay. You've got 2 things going simultaneously with the idiots writing this. Idiot thing number 1 is that she's got to be the bestest ever at everything because she's got darker skin and she's female, so she has to be freaking perfect and wonderful. She's got to be the bestest ever. But they also got to, they said there's got to be funny. So the idiots writing this have no idea what humor is. And they just think cruelty and being horrible cruelty, relentless arrogance and cruelty, and absolutely terrible character traits is amusing. In other words, they're people who live their lives on Twitter. This is made for Twitter comeback. And it's just...
Rabbi, what do you think's coming first? The jokes or the stories? What do you think they're coming up with first?
I think the stories came already from Seth MacFarlane's pitch. He's got all their pitches, because some of them resemble Star Trek, right? Just Star Trek by people who Star Trek by people who don't really like it for people who for nobody. I mean, what are the viewing figures on this? They're like the second week it dropped down to like 200,000. In Canada, it went from 500 to 220. Who's watching this? But
we
anyway,
are.
Exactly.
Well, yes,
and we're talking about it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly who is watching it. I hadn't seen any figures at all, and I hadn't gone and sought them out. Keith, so this is your 3rd episode in a fortnight. We haven't heard you talk about any of these. So do you want to bring us up to speed about where you are with all 3? Where do you think this one is better than the previous one? Do you think it's steadily improving, or what are your thoughts generally?
That was totally unrehearsed. I'm sorry.
I'm
trying to be neutral here.
No, it's fair to say that I actually enjoyed this episode slightly more than the previous two, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But do I find it funny? Not really. There were a couple of moments in this episode that I chuckled at. But what I find is I'm actually rolling my eyes more than I'm laughing. So that you know, the eye rolls outweigh the actual genuine funny bits.
All the way.
The whole thing that, you know, you guys are saying, and I sort of see where you're coming from, you know, with the whole sort of misandry side of things. You know, yes, there is no doubt about it. Ensign Boimler is the butt of every joke every week, and you know, my prediction is that isn't necessarily going to change. He's always going to be the butt of the joke. Always again, you know, the super smart, you know, female ensigns, and I'm classing Tendi in that as well, because
Mocky Spock.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
In terms of, I will say though, in terms of something I noted last week, and it's funny, I don't want to give away sort of spoilers on our podcast, but myself and Pete saw it slightly differently. Was he viewed it, I think, very much having listened to your second podcast in the same way that you guys did, whereas the one time we see Mariner make a mistake in the second episode, it turns out that it wasn't a mistake. You know, it was kind of a setup by her in the first place. And yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's valid. I read it slightly different though, in terms of what it told me. My feelings on Ensign Mariner right from the beginning of episode 1 and right the way through to the very last scene in episode 2, I thought she was a pretty mean character, meaning, you know, she always knew everything, she always got everything right, and she always kind of, having said that, the thing that made me change my mind on that and view it slightly differently was that she actually did something at her expense for Boimler. And I thought to myself, maybe, just maybe, and I'm giving a lot of, I'm being quite generous here with my expectation, but just maybe there's going to be some character development here, and she's shown some empathy, and she will turn out to be a lot nicer character than I'd been giving her credit for up until that point.
I've been wondering about this, Keith, because obviously we're used to seeing animated half-hour comedies. You know, they've been commonplace, particularly from American studios, since things like the Flintstones in the 60s, where they'd make like 20, 30 of these a season. And as they went into syndication afterwards, they'd get chopped up, and they could run in any order because the characters didn't ever change, did they? But that way of making television, just like every other kind of way of making TV, and that way of treating animated characters now on other shows, both comedy and straight animated shows, some of the characters, they do exhibit growth. They do have their own arc, and to me, you see, the kind of things that we're talking about, that the setup's always the same, and that the characters will always reset to these types. That would be fine if we were talking about a show like that and specifically that was aimed at kids. That would be
what you'd expect. This is not. This is definitely not.
No, it's not aimed at kids. And there's only 10 of them. There's only 10 of them. And so in that first story, Ian, you know, where they reveal, where there's a spoiler at the end. There's 10 in this. Yeah. So in that first episode at the end, where they reveal. When they reveal that the captain is her mother, Ian, are they aiming that at some reveal along the way, which means that the story and the relationships will grow, or are these just going to be super?
It's obvious that she's going to grow, and but the thing is, though, I don't trust this because I know where it's coming from and I know the agenda. Now, Keith says that he interprets the ending of the second episode that she was trying to be nice to Mr. Purple Hair fella. But I don't interpret that at all. It's still saying that, you know, let's pick on the white man, and this black woke girl is brilliant
because he's inferior.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. And I'm sorry, Keith, but I know you're trying to sit on the fence again, right? But I'm sorry, you're wrong, right? There's definitely an agenda going through the second episode, and that ending tells me that she is still fucking fantastic because she has empathy for this guy.
Fantastic. She's even more. It's not that she's fantastic. They made it even more good. Honestly, I think
more virtuous.
Everything way too much.
You can't see that. I don't know what to say. It's obvious that's what they're doing. You know. So, and I know you'll disagree, and I know a lot of Trekkies will disagree as well. But I'm sorry, I've seen too many shows that's done this now. Too many shows, and this is just one.
I think that they were. I think they were intending on their terms to the people who are making and writing this. I think Keith received it in the right way. I think that they were trying to say, look, this character can grow. That was their intent, but it does. But I agree, it does open up, and I hadn't given it any further consideration, I must admit. But you're right. I mean, it does still elevate her.
Exactly.
Sorry, Rabbi. What were you going to say?
The character growth you're talking about is too subtle and too intelligent. The character growth that we're going to see in this show is what we saw in episode 3, where she went, "Oh, I hate you. You're in charge. Oh." And then he took his shirt off and said, "Oh, you're kind of hot." That's the character growth we're going to see.
That did surprise me.
And we're not going to see we're not going to see depth, because clearly the people writing this and making this don't have any. They can't emulate something that they don't have. There is no depth to this. This is made by very, very superficial people. I mean, I very, very clearly. I don't think. I mean, that second episode, I just thought they said, well, let's put in a thing where she's we got to show her how great she is in so many different ways, and then they just made her be even more virtuous because she accepted the ultimate insult on herself. The ultimate insult on herself to raise somebody else up, which is to be laughed at, which is the thing they think is the worst thing in the whole universe.
If she did do that, Keith, what you're suggesting that she did, right, then she would have stopped picking on him. The third episode, she'd treat him with some kind of respect, but she doesn't. She carries on.
No, she doesn't. I mean, she's horrible in the opening teaser. You know, sort of booting him off stage and doing all that. You know, but I mean, I think my whole thing with this series is, if it was just a satire, a pastiche of Star Trek, I'd probably quite enjoy it for what it is. The problem I've got with it is actually supposed to be officially part of the Star Trek canon universe, whatever you want to call it. And what I find with the characters is I just don't believe that in the time of Star Trek: The Next Generation in the 24th century, I don't buy, especially with Roddenberry's vision of humanity, etc. I don't buy that ensigns that have been through, who are officers, they're lower rank officers, but they're still officers. They've been through Starfleet Academy and they're serving on a starship. I just, you know, the humor doesn't work for the universe as far as I'm concerned, because I don't believe that they'd behave this immature and that they'd behave like this. If they'd made them like, I don't know, if they'd made them sort of enlisted crew or something like that, maybe this joke would work. But the fact they're Starfleet, and specifically Starfleet and everything, I know I'm taking it way too seriously, but this is why I don't think it's for me, because it's amusing for what it is. And as I said, if it was a straight up, a bit like I referenced like Family Guy, they did the episodes that were, or they did the films, in fact, that were
the Star Wars
a Star Wars original trilogy riff, and that was funny, and apparently Lucas enjoyed them as well, and I quite enjoyed them, because that wasn't saying that, oh, this is Star Wars canon. That was just its thing, right? And I think my problem with this is they kind of, excuse the Star Trek pun, but they kind of want the best of both worlds, because they want to do that. But at the same time, they want this to be officially part of Star Trek, and
so
I just
when they do start doing things, Keith, like the whole fight sequence there, as Commander Ransom, when he rips his shirt off and does the whole Kirk thing, which usually that would make me laugh. And I mean, you're smiling thinking about it, and it was beautifully animated. I think the animation is nice on this, and all those standard Star Trek fights, we see that in lots of sketch shows, don't we, over the years, both animated and live action. It's one of those Star Trek tropes. But when they did it in this, I think I got to the point at the halfway mark of episode 3, where I'm starting to get sort of so bored and deflated by it. It's almost like they haven't really, even though this is Star Trek, it's part of it's the same, made by the same people. It feels unearned. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Keith, can I ask you a question? I do agree with you that obviously this doesn't fit in the Roddenberry Star Trek or even the Rick Berman Star Trek universe, right? It doesn't. Do you think it fits more comfortably though in a universe which had Discovery as its prequel and Picard as its sequel, which I think is really quite different from the Star Trek universe?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I know this is something I know for sure that this is something Ian thinks, because we've had this conversation, and Ian's actually guested on my podcast about this. I think you can certainly see that it's made by the same producers and production company, because definitely the social political ideologies are there, and yes, they're definitely there. But do I think it fits into the same universe? I just don't really think it fits into any Star Trek, to be perfectly honest.
I really feel that way about Picard, and I think to a lot, especially season 2 of Discovery, I just don't see. See, the first 10 episodes of Discovery, I just said, "Oh, this is a separate universe." I kind of like that first 10 episodes. Yeah, apart from the universe, I thought that engaged until they went to like the mirror universe, and even then, it just kind of like started to like lose its consistency. But even that, it felt like it was in its own different universe. But they kept saying, "No, this is prime."
But me and Keith really liked Discovery season 1. I thought it was okay. I remember talking to Keith.
I like Harry Mudd.
Yeah, exactly. Great. I remember texting Keith and talking to Keith on the phone saying, well, let's see where it's going to go. And then they rushed the ending and then come back.
Totally.
They ran out of Brian
exactly. Yeah. And then came the despicable, horrible, female agenda ridden season 2. And that was it for me. That was it for me.
Like
I thought,
a very different show.
Yeah, it wasn't
in very key
ways.
It really too had Lieutenant Mansplainer, who was there to not listen to Burnham and be blown up for it. That was
Was he wearing a red shirt?
In a scene that was ripped straight from the Star Trek movies as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They've done that.
Exactly. Yeah. My kind of thing, and again, this is if we're gonna get really geeky, this podcast is about being geeky.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
But the way my kind of sad headcanon deals with all this stuff is a little bit like that Next Gen episode Parallels, with where Worf is moving between different slightly different timelines, and obviously we've got the Kelvin timeline, we've got the mirror universe, which is the extreme one. But the way I look at it, and I've said this before on a podcast, and it is the way that I'm able to deal with the inconsistencies, is I say that when the Kelvin timeline or any of these other timelines were created, it created ripples, and Star Trek Discovery is it's not in the Kelvin timeline, but it's also in a ripple kind of one remove from the prime timeline. And that's why that there's those inconsistencies and stuff like that.
Yeah, but we know why there's inconsistencies, because they didn't know Star Trek. The people that were writing it didn't know Star Trek. And you could philosophize and figure out where it belongs in the universe in your mind. But the truth is, the people that were writing it did not know Star Trek, and they made shitloads of mistakes along the way.
Well,
That's the truth.
I think it essentially that the property has been badly
Destroyed?
managed, and what's happened is, particularly with Discovery, had quite a large development process to it originally, but it was from a completely different showrunner who had a completely different vision and ideal for what the series was going to be. And then what happened is, when they parted ways, they then tried to sort of retrofit their vision
agenda
around it, which agendas, but around it. And then what happened was, then they sort of tried to course correct things in the second season, and you just ended up with, I mean, that ridiculous scene about redaction of what had happened to sort of make it fit in. And that's the trouble. You're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. It's
so
not,
what Keith was actually saying, what Keith was actually saying was that when the producer left, these people came in and took Star Trek and used it as a political platform. They didn't care about the canon, didn't care about anything else. They literally wrote for the female agenda, the woke agenda, and the political. But use Star Trek as a political platform. That's exactly what Keith is saying. That's
while
exactly
we're talking about Discovery. I mean, the one thing that I noticed more strongly than anything else was how in season 1, a lot of us, including me, latched onto the Tilly character. And I think that in some episodes she, it was better than. But I think people generally liked her, responded to her, even if some of the choices were somewhat excessive. And I believe that Tilly was Brian Fuller's son. That was him putting himself in the storyline. I think he related to that character. I think he created her as a way of him being in the show. And if you notice in season 2. Even though she's one of these female characters and was a big focal point of season 1, the relationship, how they paired her and Burnham as bunkmates and all that sort of thing. In season 2, she does next to nothing, doesn't say a great deal apart from the odd one-liner here and there, and she just isn't able to be wonderful and continue to be wonderful.
And rather people in a race.
Yeah, rather than to be the person who she was in season 1. So it feels so. I know a lot of people who loved her in season 1 or loved season 1 because of her. And then in season 2, they didn't get any of it, and it's just let them down too.
In season 2, she's winning a half marathon.
That's
right?
That's unbelievable. Ludicrous.
When they have the guy, the incredibly fit man behind him, having to run on the spot so Tilly could beat him.
I only say this as a runner myself. I know how hard that is.
No, it's completely ridiculous. I run too. The idea that this, I'm sorry, but really quite overweight woman would best several physically fit people in this half marathon or whatever. It's absolutely outrageous.
But if we can see that, I don't understand how people can't see this is what's going on in the show. They're either blind or just ignore what's in front of their face. I mean, I was on Keith's podcast, and that other guy that we were talking to, he refused to see what me and Bolstrek were saying. He refused. He literally refused to see what we're. And in the end, I could have said something. I think he kind of justified what I was saying or whatever. And in the end, I just gave up because I knew it was pointless, because people do not want to see what's going on. And this is the problem. And I'm very vocal about this. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it. But all of us here, we want Star Trek to be good. We love Star Trek. We don't want this stupid platform to be politicized or this stupid female agenda to be running through it. We want our Star Trek back. That's what we want.
Well, talking about our Star Trek this week, this is a little segue here. I haven't watched any Next Generation this week, mostly because I've been watching Star Trek for part of our live stream that we put on last week. We've got a couple of guests. We had Kirk R. Thatcher, the punk, in. We had a guest come in from the Orville as well, from the formerly Fox and Hulu, now on Hulu series, the Orville, Brandon Fires. So that was really good. But I watched The Voyage Home last week. I watched it 1.5 times, and obviously that brings some of the things that we're talking about. Obviously, that is real Star Trek. It's Star Trek in the very fibre of its being. But yes, if you look on the channel and go to the list, the playlist of videos, you'll see that, and I'll drop the link to it in the description of this video too. 2 hours of concentrated, good, jolly Trek talk, where most of us say mostly jolly things for the entire time. So we're not always miserable, we promise. But another thing I've been doing this week, guys, is that the only people that I'd ever spoken to about Lower Decks are you guys, and Noel Glynn from the TARDIS Zone. So really quite a small number of people. And I haven't read any reviews. I've listened to no other podcasts. Sorry, Keith, I have got yours queued up ready to go. I shall be listening to Let's See What's Out There pretty quickly. But yeah, so I've listened to nothing, and nobody's seen or read no reviews. But I was on Facebook last week, and I mentioned to somebody about the fact that this hasn't been very well received, and they said, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's going down really well." I thought, "Oh, maybe I should. Maybe I am really off base. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing or hearing or whatever." So I did. I was on YouTube, and I come across another YouTube channel doing a sort of podcast show, kind of like this, but not in vision, just on the mic. And it's quite a nice little show. They've only put out a couple of episodes, and so they're a couple, husband and a wife or whatever. And the conversations between them are quite, they're really, really warm and quite funny. They seem really lovely people. It's really intimate conversations. Quite a nice show, but they absolutely love it. And this was only after the first 2 episodes. They were really, really excited about it. Really, really talking it up. And there was something on there. They were saying about how they were aware on this show of people out there saying the things that we're saying, and their response to that is sort of that basically that we're all really quite miserable people who don't want to laugh, who won't accept that this is meant to be a good time.
Exactly.
It's meant to be funny.
It's not a good time. Excuse me. Listen, Robot Chicken. It's great, Robot Chicken, Star Wars Family Guy. It's great, and I think really what separates, and the Star Wars Robot Chicken really get it. What separates a good parody or a Galaxy Quest? Galaxy Quest is great,
amazing,
and what these things do, they love and understand the source material. You have to understand the source material. They clearly don't.
And as much as I enjoyed listening to their conversation, the idea that it just seemed like such low-hanging fruit to take. They did make a comment that anybody who doesn't like Discovery and Picard is a horrible, sexist, white, old man. They negated on this show. They're both Welsh. They completely sort of said, "Oh, don't listen to any of that because they're just sexists and racists." So they did, So I had to give that a sort of. I had to put that out of my mind because the show is like I say, it's a nice listen. I was disappointed that they said that, but this stuff about that people just don't want to laugh. Of course, we want to laugh, but here's my problem, and Keith mentioned this a little while ago. There's a big difference between being Star Trek that is funny and being a spoof of Star Trek. Everything about the run up to Lower Decks. The entire, basically 2 years, Rabbi, we talked about this last week. The entire 2 years has been, this is going to be funny Star Trek. It's funny Star Trek that's animated. And we've had funny Star Trek before. There's been comedy in Star Trek before. We're not all miserable gits because we don't laugh at this.
And we're not sexist either.
But
are we?
No, God no. But and this is it. You see, I feel that this show is.
Was that?
I feel
I didn't hear that. What was that?
Go on, repeat that, Rabbi.
I said I'm reasonably sexist, but yeah.
It's not going to nail his colours to the mast on that one. But I believe that the stumbling block now, with a third of the way in, is the fact that this is telling us that it is funny Star Trek, but it's actually not. It is a spoof. It is a spoof, though they're trying to spoof it. They're trying to, because we've had funny Star Trek. Here's a reminder of funny Star Trek. You mentioned
I am not a very fan. Oh, that's brilliant. See, Now I've got to go and watch that episode. Just that,
We've had
absolutely.
purposefully funny characters, and we've had funny situations writ in a comedic way within the body of a dramatic story. These are moments that have made us laugh. They're characters that make us smile, and they're moments that we continually go back to and refer to as being how to do it right. This happened. This was on Star Trek 2 with no laughter track. Star Trek has always been funny, but this is spoofing Star Trek. And in an age where we've got the Orville on now. It's whenever that's going to come back soon. The Orville is, it's very much stolen Star Trek's mainstream thunder. Then
it's
basically,
and it's genuinely funny.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Rabbi. The more I think about this, you've been saying it now for 2 or 3 weeks. You could be right that they did look at whatever Seth left with them in a some sort of brown envelope or in a file. And they had a peek into what could we use out of that, because everything they're doing, it is more in the camp of what's going on the Orville, and what is the point in doing in animated form in a half-hour way what the Orville is doing much better in that hour.
Okay, now you're comparing it to the Orville. You're highlighting their lack of understanding of comedy.
Exactly. It's not funny.
Listen, they think this loud, shouting, horrible person is funny, and that's right. There's nothing funny about her. There's everything funny about the people. I like all these characters, and they're funny. And
some of them, Rabbi, are unpleasant characters, and yet we still like them. We still want them to grow. We're still fond of them because they're well written, isn't it?
I don't mind if people disagree with us. I don't mind if those people say that the cartoon's great. All power to them, right? If they really like it, that's fine with me. But I can only tell you from my point of view that it's undeniable. Again, I use those words, undeniable, that they're using it as a platform, and it's not entertainment first. It's putting out their politics first, and then everything else comes second. This is what's happening with the show. As I said, it's undeniable. The only people that don't report it is the Access Media. They do not report it. Hence why normies don't know what's going on. Like my brother, for instance, he doesn't look at YouTube. He believes everything he reads in a newspaper. He believes everything he sees, I guess, on Google. Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. That's why people are calling us sexist and all that stuff that comes. Sorry, Keith, go ahead, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I mean, on that note, what you were saying, Dan, about there's several things I object to. Okay, and I think the whole sort of name calling thing from either side of the fence on this is inappropriate. To sort of defend my podcasting partner Pete, who's not here to defend himself on this. He and I, we're not so much on Lower Decks, but certainly with Picard, he and I, we both admit that it didn't stick the landing, but we had a lot of enjoyment on the journey for that. And I think that, there is plenty there that to be enjoyed and that is entertaining. I don't think it's necessarily everything falls into one side or the other with this stuff. And I think that's important to note, just to sort of to use your term earlier, measured about it all, Dan. And I think the thing with Alex Kurtzman, and this is just my theory on him, is it seems to me, if I look at Alex Kurtzman's career, okay, Alex Kurtzman has been doing this for a long time. He's he used to work with JJ and whatever back on Alias and Lost and all these shows that I really like. I think the issue, particularly when it comes to Star Trek, but also there's been other messes as well, like Dark Universe for Universal
Spider-Man.
and all this stuff. But the thing is, when I think what he's suffering from is when he had his writing partnership with Roberto Orci, who, by the way, was the massive Trekkie, was the Star Trek fan. Okay. Sorry?
Which you can tell just by watching the stuff he worked with. Yeah. It's very obvious.
Exactly. So obviously, the Star Trek 2009 film was Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci, right? And I still to this day I love that film. I don't care what any of the people who hate
I like it
Star
too.
Trek. I like that film, and I think that's a great film. You know, Alex Kurtzman, I don't believe is a massive Star Trek fan. You know, that is the thing, and that's going to what you're saying about the fact that he's not necessarily understanding Trek to a level that's keeping the fans happy. And,
yeah, but that's not what he's trying to do, Keith. He literally said it. He's using Star Trek as a platform. Now that's undeniable again. He doesn't care about Star Trek. He's using it as a political platform. Exactly what he said, word by word, on what is it? What was it on, Dan?
It was on. Remember
what was it on?
Comic-Con at Home.
Comic-Con at Home. He literally said that, Keith.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing, and that's not Star Trek.
If he's putting that first, then yes, that is a problem. There is nothing wrong with using entertainment to tell stories. I mean, Star Trek has always, made political statements throughout its run, whether it's the original series, the movies, whatever. It's always done that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like with everything, there needs to be some balance, right? Yeah. And with this show, my thing with this show is, as I said, I just don't. If you watch something like, and I know we're not comparing like for like here, but you watch the episode First Duty, in The Next Generation, or you watch the Lower Decks episode, which features some of the same characters in The Next Generation, right? I don't buy that this has anything to do with that, yet it is kind of loosely based on it. But the Starfleet ethics is completely different. And I know I'm taking it way too seriously. I get
no, you're not.
I don't think within the case of the ethics, listen, if we were talking about continuity, I'd agree with you, but we're not. I think the ethics to Star Trek, you're right, Star Trek has always been political and discussed these things, and usually with this sort of kind of a centrist viewpoint, really, or certainly from the script, they'd always make every effort to show all sides of an argument. So, but I think you're absolutely right. It's the ethics of Star Trek. Once you start compromising that, and this is why Episode 2 annoyed me so much, because the ethics of that were completely wrong. The trapping the alien being in the what was it? Some sort of canister at the beginning.
Oh god,
that made no sense. That actually made no sense. Yeah,
it's completely
him into a tricorder. Why?
Yeah, for a cheap gag.
Didn't it not go into the captain? So I'm assuming that's going to come back in a couple of episodes. It went into the captain. Didn't it?
Or do you think they're that clever?
I don't know.
Foreshadowing going on.
I don't know.
Hey, more power to them if there is.
Well, actually, I want to go something that you said, Dan. The use of current day politics in Star Trek. And I think Star Trek, of all the big franchises, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, has been the most overtly current day political right from its inception. We got the let this be your last battlefield. I think the difference there is, I was saying the difference with Lower Decks is they don't understand and they don't love the source material, right? They don't, which is why it's not working. But I think why all their political, the current day politics they're putting in isn't working is because hitherto there's always been a basic love and respect for the Western world. The Western world is a great thing that has been a benefit to humanity, and the American empire of it. That is not the point of view of the current clearly not the point of view of the current production. So you could have an episode again in 66. What was it? Let's be your last battlefield. Very pointedly talking about the insanity of racism. He's white on one side, black on the other, white black on the other. Yeah, very point. Which was really a hot button topic of that time. But it was still saying, but we overcame. But we are more aspirational. We are not limited by our failures. That doesn't define us.
I know. They say
Star Trek.
Sorry,
So
go ahead.
I'm just going to say, for all that Star Trek's got this universal appeal and speaks broadly about humankind and all life, hundreds of years in the future, it is still a product of it's pure Americana as far as I'm concerned. It's an American pop culture, modern mythology as they call it, coming out of the 60s and steeped in all of that, and all the technologies, a sort of development from everything that was originated in there. That's part of the charm of it. And you're right, they are now, they seem to be viewing that as something that needs to be, I won't even say deconstructed. I think it probably is right. Ian, you used the word destroyed.
Yeah, they do. They do. Look, I don't mince words. Everybody knows that, right? Look, Star Trek did use politics in the 60s. That is true, right? But they didn't like the one that Rabbi just mentioned, right? They didn't use that every week, did they? Didn't. But this Star Trek is doing that every week, and I keep saying it's woke, feminine politics, feminine agenda. They use that every week. So it's different. What we're talking about is 60s and the other Star Treks and TV. This is different. This is literally trying to educate. They think they need to educate us.
And yet it doesn't seem cerebral.
Educate, indoctrinate.
That's it. That's the word I was looking for. That's what it seems to me that they're trying to do.
That would be, because I was going to say, but oddly, how it's the complete opposite of cerebral. But what was that word you just mentioned, Rabbi?
Indoctrinate.
Yeah.
So they're going for your sort of in the heart, really, rather than actually getting into your mind and sort of exploring ideas and challenging belief.
They don't want to overtly say that. Basically, they think they've got this incredible new idea that women are people too. That we haven't worked this out. Women are people too, right? And it's going to subtly show how women can be people too, and that way, us idiots who don't understand that women can be people too, we'll just subtly have I remember, in Star Trek, Michael Burnham was stunning and brave. Some women are stunning and brave.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to teach kids, right? If kids watch this, that is. I don't think they do. They're trying to teach kids that men are weak. Men should be weak. They shouldn't be all muscle and try and be manly. They should literally be in their place and be weak. And every male character in this, apart are either weak or they're strong and idiots. So that's undeniable as well. Especially in this episode, we had the Kirk fella, but he was an idiot. He basically,
especially in Star Trek, because Star Trek is supposed to be about, regardless of gender, ethnicity, sexuality, religion, whatever. Exactly. Everybody is important, and everybody is equal. And yes, there's a ranking system, but that is obviously earned on merit and stuff within Starfleet. And that was Gene Roddenberry's philosophy all along, that none of this shit matters. None of this, it doesn't matter if somebody's gay or straight or male or female or black or white. It doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. So if that's missing the point of Star Trek as far as I'm concerned.
You can't have it one way. Sorry, mate.
I'm just saying, it's like,
You think these writers just can't write from that same place? They're just incapable of. It's not they're choosing to tell those other stories. They're incapable of finding those situations, of landing on those topics and exploring those ideas. Or is it like that concerted?
Do you know what? It really is sad that Hollywood's going this way, and it looks like we're going to get more of this rubbish as well. So what can we do? Like I said, we're a huge.
We can watch the Orville instead.
Exactly. we are a huge voice. The Phantom Menace is a huge voice, right?
Sorry, Rabbi.
But we're not. We're a huge voice. The Phantom Menace is huge, and we're a huge voice. But Access Media has more precedent over news that goes around the world. But the only thing we can do is keep screaming. so that people can hear us.
If they could stop social media, they would. They hate social media.
They hate social media,
yes.
because they can't control what's going on. That's what
I like the fact that we can talk to one another and talk to you.
Yeah.
Going to your question, are they capable of doing it? I'm going to say no. They're not capable of the layered three-dimensional thought. And I always go, I always go to the smuttiest thing humanly possible. But I was
Wait for it.
I was talking. I can't remember. It was on a stream or podcast with somebody, and what I'm really seeing is the first generation that was brought up with unlimited free porn. It's going to your head, right? Like when I was a kid, you were doing a National Geographic or like whatever. Nothing was so easy. Right now, I just think that ease, that incredible like ease on getting like instant gratification, which is so much more now for this. I mean, like it's funny, but think about it. I think that's why they haven't developed the backbone, the strength, or to have like this rational, layered, intelligent thought, and they come up with just this bilge upon bilge upon, and of course they hire young people without any. Without much experience, but yeah, again,
they're ageist.
They just don't have this.
Tell me about it, Keith. Yeah,
I couldn't agree. Well, last week I offered the question why weren't writers like Melinda Snodgrass, who have this
amazing
long career, and they're still working in Hollywood today. She's still selling a pilot at the moment and working on all sorts of the scripts, so they're very much active. And a woman, if you really want to go down that road, the gender road, active in Hollywood, working, respected. Stop. Why isn't she? Obviously, the kind of stories that she explores. Yeah. Why haven't they tapped her for a story?
She doesn't agree with what's going on. No, she doesn't agree what's going on. That's why. That's probably why.
What
I think is a shame, and I say this from any side, whether we're talking extreme left or extreme right, is
neither.
I look at us. We're multifaceted people, so why should we be one or the other, right?
Exactly.
But the extremes. But what I hate from those extremes is. And I really do. You mentioned it earlier, Dan. I just hate this notion of name calling from any side of it, and putting people in a box like that. It's not, that isn't what the world should be, and it certainly isn't what Star Trek should be either. So, and I know I'm sounding like Mr. Diplomacy fence sitter, as Ian calls it, but I just think it's a shame. When I was a kid and watched Star Trek, I had no idea of the social politics that some of those stories were doing until I was much older and watched it. But the point was, it captured my imagination. It literally took me to strange new worlds, regardless of whether the visual effects were great or the Gorn looked rubber or whatever. And exactly. And it was good storytelling. And you take everybody cites the episodes like City on the Edge of Forever and all of that sort of stuff. But that was bloody brilliant storytelling, and it's just a shame that it can't be about telling good stories, and that is the sad thing. And this is why, and I know you'll probably say, oh no, it'll be, but I've actually got hope for Discovery season 3, and the reason I say that is because they're setting it outside of any other canon. It doesn't have, it's not painted into some sort of time period that's got to gel with everything else.
They're giving themselves a clean slate,
own thing, and that's what JJ did with the first film, and then ignored in the second film. This free palette to go wherever.
Although I would say this, given that I think the people making Star Trek hate the Western world, hate America, hate everything.
But they're Americans, though.
I know.
Self-loathing is the new religion, it seems to me.
Yeah, but they want to see it destroyed and torn apart. Yeah. Well, Discovery season 3 is set in that utopic future when the when the Federation has been torn up and destroyed. From what I can
see. Yeah.
But just going back to what Keith said,
who knows what we're gonna see?
Just going back to what Keith said, yeah, it's bad form if you call people names or put us in a box and all that rubbish and stuff like that. I must admit I disagree. I don't have any hope for season 3 because yes, it's going to be in its own world, but we have men and women in it. So what do you reckon's going to happen? That's what I can say.
We've
So,
got 6 or 7 weeks until we find out what's going to come.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going to go on with Discovery season 3. The plan is that we'll be here.
Yeah, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I will watch the first 2 episodes. And if the first 2 episodes are the same stupid agenda crap, then I'm off. I don't want it to be. Look, everybody that's listening to me, I don't want Star Trek like this. I love Star Trek, right? I want it to be good for everyone, but they don't seem to want that. So
I'm going to ask you again, the 3 weeks in, how are your shields holding up this week? What's the percentage? Go on, where are your shields at?
Me?
Yeah.
My shields are still at 2%. Actually, no, this episode was bearable, so I reckon it's 5% this time round. So,
okay.
The only reason why it stays bearable is because she got stabbed in the foot.
Rabbi, where are your shields holding at the moment?
I know exactly where I am. Best of both worlds. What was the episode? Was it episode 1 or 2? Where they hear the battles going on at Wolf 359. Right, and they got once where they get one message through. It's like the camera's like, fight's not going well with the Prime. That's where I am. That's exactly where I am.
That's good. Keith, this is something that I've been doing as a way of sort of gauging where we are with present Star Trek. Where are your shields holding between 0 and 100%? How resistant or not are you presently to lower decks?
Unfortunately, my shields are in a parallel timeline. You know what I mean? They're in its own universe. This is the thing. This is my issue with it.
Okay.
You know, at the moment they're at 20%.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I was at 20.
That was based on this episode.
I was at 22% last week. I think I'm up to 25% now.
Do you know what, guys?
A lot more.
You know what, guys? I must admit, I saw this episode twice, and the reason why I saw this episode twice wasn't because I fell asleep. That's not true. The reason why I saw it twice was because I thought to myself, wow, they really have made this girl pushed her to the side in this episode. But then when I saw it a second time, I realized what they were doing. They were literally still pounding on men. If you look very closely, it's very subtle, but if you look closely, they were still pounding on men and making men really dumb. And so that's why I came to this point where, my shields are holding at 3% or 5% because they still haven't changed their tune. They still haven't made it a level playing field with everything in the show. So that's why I watched it. So I thought to myself, no, wait, well, it was all right. And then I thought, no, let me watch it again. And I watched it again. And that's the conclusion I came to.
Yeah, I was tempted to go back and watch a second time because, as I said, I did lose interest halfway through. Sorry,
Keith, go on.
I was going to say, do you think, though, that Mariner and Ransom are going to hook up?
One's Ransom?
And if so, it'll be on her terms, the first officer.
Oh.
Yes, they will.
Oh, maybe
there was definitely some for both sides. Because to start with, I thought, that's a double standard because she, she kind of said he was hot and all this. And I thought, if a guy said that about a woman, it'll be. But to be fair, by the end of the episode, he said the same about her. So I was like, okay, fair enough. They're setting up. But that will be, unless she instigates it, though, that'll probably be considered an inappropriate relationship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Senior officer and all this.
But if you see, the thing is, Keith, if you notice that and you said that, then obviously you realize that this stuff is going through our shows and it's definitely going through Star Trek, and this is what's happening. So I mean, that's probably what's going to happen if they get together. That she's going to instigate it, or he won't, will he? Because it'll be sexist if he did.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I think the thing is we're sort of we're sensitive to everything nowadays just because
That's
of
not
what's
true. That's
going,
not true.
Because you can
I'm
offend
becoming really
anyone.
I'm becoming really sensitized to this kind of content. It's starting to get set my teeth on edge, and that's against my better judgment. I don't want to be that guy who's going.
Nor do I.
Here we go again.
Nor do I.
Nor do I.
It's against my nature, my default setting. But yeah,
Well, it's very anti Star Trek, isn't it?
It is,
Let's be honest.
It is.
The Roddenberry utopia is supposed to, all of this stuff isn't supposed to matter at all.
I mean, look at Star Trek 4. When we were talking about Star Trek 4, there's a scene in it where the big cigar thing is going towards Earth, and you've got a black captain going. Sent out all channels on the Earth and stuff. A black woman. She was a black woman, and she was a captain of the starship
On the Saratoga. Yeah.
and we didn't think anything of it.
Right.
Anything
I
of
never
it.
thought a single thing of it.
Exactly.
Was it
That's how it
BJ,
should be.
whatever his name was? He was a famous tennis player.
Yeah,
He played-
Vijay Armatraz.
Oh yeah,
Vijay
he was on another one. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were on two. They were on
Engineer,
two ships that were neutralized by
But
the.
that's
probe.
right.
That's what I'm
Those two,
saying,
yeah.
right? If you're gonna do that, do it properly. Do it with no fanfare.
Well,
Do
again,
you know what I mean?
okay, I come from the 80s. By the end of the 80s, if anybody says, "Oh, what that guy's black," you look at him like, "What? What's wrong?"
Exactly.
So what, right? So
Yeah.
what?
Like, if anybody came around to all that, you just look at them like they're crazy.
But the balance should have been, in this Lower Decks, it should have been her father that was in charge of the starship, and then the daughter. That's what it should have been. If they wanted to balance it out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the balance
But they
doesn't
didn't.
seem right.
They didn't. They deliberately had a woman in charge, a woman of color, right? And then the main character is a woman of color. So what? I mean, sorry, I'm not reading anything into that
No.
at all. I'm sorry, but what can I say?
Ian,
Sorry.
where can people find you on YouTube? What are you going to tell us about your series?
I'm going and hiding.
Go to the,
I
go
gotta say,
to the
I
plugs.
wouldn't tell him, Ian.
No, I won't tell him anything.
You don't have to give me your postcode. Okay, there'll be a link in the description.
No. I've got a YouTube channel, and people say don't big it up. Keith keeps saying I don't big it up.
please
Right, so I'm going to
big it
big it up now. I'm going to go. This is an award-winning web series called Rebecca Gold, and it won loads of awards. And I'm brilliant, just like Mocky
There you
Spot.
go.
right?
And it's got a female
You've gotta
lead.
get a bit more
Got a
consistent.
female
lead.
Okay, you just gotta get more. Okay, watch Ethan Van Sciver. Okay, he can sell his work. He's brilliant at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Ethan. He's
Because,
fantastic.
there's no question that what he does is brilliant. I'm telling you, as somebody who watches your work, it's very good.
Thank you very much.
You got to have. You got this English embarrassment about being
Yeah, I know.
successful good about something. You're
I know.
successful and good at something. For God's sake.
Yeah, I would say if you're going to watch an episode of Lower Decks, don't bother. Watch Rebecca Gold. It's the same length. It's the same length of time, and it's way more entertaining. So it's actually funnier as well.
Yeah.
From one salesman to another, Rabbi, where can people find you and see and hear more?
You can get me at Biblical Comics, BIBLICALCOMIX. That's got a link to my YouTube channel, my Facebook, my Twitter. Not my Parler. I'm also on Parler as well. But at Biblical Comics at Twitter. I don't know. But just go to Biblical Comics as they.
I put it all in the descriptions anyway, so you can find everybody's information down there.
Do you see what's behind the rabbi on the wall?
Oh, what, the TARDIS thing?
No.
Oh.
Look closer.
Oh yeah.
On the wall.
Next to the
To
TARDIS.
the right of the TARDIS.
To the right of the TARDIS. Can you see it?
Oh, the community. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Bloody
that's
brilliant.
Okay.
The greatest of products. I was like, I gotta get that.
It's
That's
brilliant.
They
Yeah.
don't make them anymore. They're great.
I know
Yeah.
we've had a moan and complain this time, but please like this video and subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss what's coming next, and you won't want to miss our friend Keith Isles and his podcast.
Yep.
Tell them about that again, Keith.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's called Let's See What's Out There. It's available on all your standard podcast catchers, iTunes, Spotify, etc. At the moment, we are covering Star Trek Lower Decks. So that goes out weekly. Also, if you want to see any short films that are just for entertainment, don't have any agenda, go to British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name, on YouTube. And there's half a dozen short films there that I've written, produced, and directed, and in one of them as well. And I also, if anybody out there is interested in physical media still, if anybody likes to buy Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, etc., I have a channel called Home Media Minefield on YouTube, which deals with unboxing and reviews of physical media, which is the best one to get, etc., etc. And this week's episode has just done a review of the 40th anniversary Flash Gordon episode, but I also do cover the Star Trek movies as well on an episode. So
that box set glimmers.
check that out. Yeah,
everything will be in the description.
What Flash Gordon is it? Are you covering?
The Flash Gordon the movie.
Flash Gordon the movie, yeah. The 1980.
Oh God, I've got to check that out. I love that movie.
They just released it, Rabbi. They just released it on 4K.
Oh, 4K.
Yeah. And was it 4K, Keith? 4K?
Yeah, well, it's 4K Blu-ray. It's also available on streaming as well now. But yes, it's a newly restored. In fact, it's even showing theatrically at places dotted around the country again. So yeah,
I got the best. I got the best release of that movie ever. It came with Ted 2. And
oh yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. The perfect trio. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. That keeps you
back to Seth MacFarlane again. Thanks to you for watching and listening to this, even though it's been a bit of a sort of therapy session. Once more, when it gets better, we'll be able to have sort of slightly jollier conversations, I would think. But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can find all our other Warp Drive conversations, some of which we've done live. Some of them are like this, where it's just sort of round tables talking about these new episodes. There'll be more to come. The plan is we'll be here for Discovery. Let's see how far we make through that. There's also,
the thing.
If you look on the channel, there's Doctor.
We're going to get to Discovery. We just start the
Thank heaven for box sets. Yes, let us know what you think. Drop us a few comments. Let us know where you are and where your shields are holding. Get in touch. And yeah, thanks for watching. Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We're nice people, really.
We are.